Good morning, Unity Spiritual Center. My name is Dr. Gary Simmons, and this is Reverend Dr. Jane, and we're here to welcome you to our live streaming service this morning, where our mission is transforming lives and inspiring people to make a positive difference in our world. We want to begin our time together by affirming our opening affirmation. I'll speak it once and invite you to share it with me. There is only one presence and one power active in my life and in the universe, God the Good. Together, there is only one presence and one power active in my life and in the universe, God the Good. And so if you have an exception to this principle, well, you're in your right and perfect place, because we're here to work on our exceptions so that when we get to the end of the day, it's all always for us. All right, so let's talk about what's happening. So as many of you are aware, Governor Inslee has now opened conditionally houses of worship, churches, to gather again in small groups. And so we just want to let everybody know that we're in the process of evaluating our readiness to begin to transition to an in-person experience. We're going to send out this next Wednesday a survey monkey, an online survey that you could take. It'll only take 3 or 4 minutes, but it'll give us a sense of of the pulse of our spiritual community, who's in the category of really needing to come and participate live and in person, and who is going to kind of wait and see, wondering. We're just wondering about how everybody feels about coming back, and so we want to make sure that as we ready ourselves for an in-person experience, we're accommodating as much of our community as possible. So be on the lookout for your e-newsletter this Wednesday for a link to SurveyMonkey. Please take the survey. Everybody in our spiritual community, we urge you all to take the survey. And it'll be a big help in informing your board with respect to our plan for opening up our services.
And if they're not able to do it online,
well, then we'll provide you with a hard copy. Just let us know, and we'll set up that option as necessary. So just know that that's coming, and we'll look forward to your responses.
Yes, exciting times for us. Also, our online small group gatherings, out of the 7 that we were offering, 4 of them are moving forward. And that would be the women's discussion group, the Wednesday evening Sunday service discussion group, Yes, the Wednesday evening one. Also, the Power of Eight group on Monday, and the parenting group. So those four have people registered and are going to begin. And if you have registered for those, you should be receiving a link for the Zoom gathering meeting link. And if you do not, if you have registered and do not hear anything, please let us know in case we have somehow missed you. And we want to make sure we get everybody who wants to register connected to start that process. The others unfortunately had either no one sign up for it or just one person and no leader. And so we're going to let that one go for the time being. One of them being the book study on active hope with Joanna Macy. And I am considering doing it as a book study in the fall, as we'll see how that goes. But that's where we stand right now.
All right. So once again, we want to thank everyone for their support. We are so dependent upon your automatic giving now, obviously, when we can't come together and receive a collection. So just a reminder, you can set up your automatic payment through your own bank bill pay or through the Tithely app. So once again, we appreciate your generosity, especially during these times. So in a moment, we'll start our meditation experience, and after that, Sean has a ukulele solo that he's going to share with us, and then Jane will have her talk. And then we'll go out before we start our Zoom session with a musical from Brian Wright. So that's the lineup, and so let's get ready for our meditation experience. So I just invite you to settle back in your chair and let us begin our time together. So I just invite you to begin with feeling yourself totally supported and held by whatever you're sitting or resting upon. Just allow yourself simply to release any holding. And check your shoulders. Just drop your shoulders. Relax your perineum. Just feel all of your channels opening. Whatever channel is, of course. And then let us begin to follow our breath. And I'll invite us into box breathing for a few rounds, and that'll help us stimulate our vagus nerve and begin to open those channels so that our time together can be one of depth and renewal and even manifesting a greater good. And so just follow my lead. Breathe in and hold and release and rest. Breathe in, hold, release, and rest. Breathe in, hold, release, and rest. Let us rest into this moment with clarity and openness. Let us bring into our awareness now someone or something that brings forth the feeling of appreciation, gratitude. And so as we draw into our awareness a life partner, beloved child, fond memory, whatever brings to us that sense that there's love and blessing and appreciation that's a part of our energetic field right now. And so as we feel ourselves into this experience of knowing and appreciating, Let us now translate that to a greater sense of appreciation for ourselves. So I invite us all to go back to our younger self, our childhood self. And as we find ourselves within this field of awareness, just begin to send yourself this love, this compassion, this sense of understanding, of knowing that our presence matters, knowing that we are here to make the difference, knowing that we've been sent, that we've arrived, and now that we're participating in the awakening and transformation, not only of ourselves, but of this world. We just allow ourselves to be instruments, avenues, channels, inlets and outlets for this activity that simply requires presence to unleash. And so we welcome our younger self into the abundant life that is experienced as we know ourselves, as God knows us, seeing beyond our limitations, knowing that we're here in spite of the challenges and the struggles that we have taken on, that we're here, but we're greater than anything that is a part of our heavy load. And so we can set ourselves now, setting the load aside, setting those beliefs aside, and simply opening ourselves to the one life, the one presence that is the truth of us, that is our wholeness, that is why we are worthy, because we are here, because we are a witness to the activity of spirit unfolding in our life. And so as we deepen now into this awareness of our worth, that our presence matters, that we are the one unto our life, the Christ unto our own world, as we truly own this reality, our essence, we simply have to welcome and open that presence to infill the totality of our capacity to know and understand and live the worth that is the truth of us. Let us now enter into the silence and simply feel our worthiness, feel that we matter. Blessed Spirit, we give thanks that we have been a part of an activity of love that has brought us into a greater expression of who and what we've come here to be. And for this newfound sense of who we are, the gratitude of knowing our worth, we give thanks. And so it is. Amen.
Amen. Yay. Thank you, Sean. Okay. There we go. Yes, thank you, Sean, for blessing us with this, with your beautiful music. Even though we can't physically be together, we can still be blessed by music from Sean and Tani and family. I look forward to hearing Brian's second song that he did for us on our way out. So, there's a story going around that Sir Isaac Newton invented calculus during the outbreak of the bubonic plague in London in the 1600s. And the story goes that as soon as the outbreak began, Cambridge University sent all of its students home for a 17th century version of social distancing. And Newton carried on with all of his mathematical problems and his scientific work. And he later dubbed this time period as a year of wonders. And so 2020 for us is our year of vision. And it got me wondering how we might take the remainder of this year, the last half of 2020, and turn it into a year of wonders, a half year of wonders. Well, the jury is still out in my mind as to whether inventing calculus was a good thing. However, I thought we could explore some algebra this morning. To be clear, algebra has never been my favorite subject, but this calculation has. C plus B equals A. And what that means is something we've talked about before. Whatever you can conceive and believe, you can achieve. And this is a famous formula taught by the author of Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill. Whatever the mind can conceive and can believe, it can achieve. And that's really important for us to remember right now as we navigate some pretty uncharted waters in our Western world. We can create something new, something so beyond business as usual right now. I read recently that when things go back to, quote, normal, we get to choose which parts of normal we want back, if we can conceive of it, and equally important, if we can believe it can happen. My talk title is Imaginary Hindsight, and it refers to a practice I will say more about later on as we explore the different dynamics that can help us to achieve what we can conceive and believe. Last week, during Gary's talk, at one point the two of us had a conversation about putting new wine into old wineskins and how we can't just plaster a new thought over an old belief if that belief is not in alignment with the new thought. So for instance, if I affirm positive things about my body and being a healthy weight while secretly or not so secretly rolling my eyes and thinking that it's not going to happen, then, believing that I can't do it, then we have to work with the belief first, because that's what the mirror and the scale will reflect for us, is the belief, not the affirmation. If I can conceive of something but not believe it, I'm stopped right there from achieving anything. So what beliefs do you have about our ability to transform as a culture? Do you really believe that a world of peace is possible, or that our political divide can be healed, or that the racism that we're witnessing can be changed, or that life can ever feel, quote, normal again? Because if I'm being totally honest this morning, the truth is that I've been struggling with this, and I'm having trouble believing it. I can give it lip service. I can say, yes, I see it happening, and I believe that we can do it. But then I notice something. I notice this sense of powerlessness and overwhelm and a heart-sinking sadness that takes over and shows me that I have some more work to do before I can get there to that belief. And in order to do that, I have to change my thinking. I have to change from static thinking to process thinking. Static thinking is in-the-box thinking, and it's like looking at a picture frame of reality. Static thinking tells me that reality is fixed, and that it's resistant to change. And it says, what I see in my tiny frame of reference is how it is. It can't transform, it's static. Process thinking, on the other hand, has a flow to it. It's more like a movie frame than a picture frame. Things can change in process thinking. It says that reality is fluid and that our choices influence what happens next. It's a much more empowering way to experience our life. You know, inventing calculus takes process thinking. Transforming a culture takes process thinking. Conceiving and believing something new takes process thinking. And discovering any beliefs I have that are a deterrent to this way of thinking is a big step in shifting out of static thinking. So in order to bring forth something new, first we have to identify what exactly it is we want to have happen. What is the vision that we have? And we want to make whatever we're envisioning so compelling that it actually touches us emotionally. It needs to move us. We have to feel it, feel the way it's going to feel when that vision comes to pass. How will it feel to have a world that works for all, that is safe for all of our human family, that is kind and compassionate toward all of its inhabitants? How will that feel? I have to feel that first before it manifests. And this is an important step, because feeling the way I'm going to feel when it comes to pass actually helps me get beyond the belief that it can't happen, you see. And it also stops me from shooting down the whole idea in my mind in the first place, before I can even get started. So I start with a compelling vision that moves me. Then I need to find and release any beliefs that are choking out any hope of me changing my mind. I read about a group that was meeting every week and trying to put these kind of ideas into practice. It was a support group. And one of the members came every week and would spend his time complaining about how nothing ever changed in his life. He sent out resumes, no one responded. He hurt his back and couldn't get any pain relief, and that made it even harder to get work. And he had a litany of reasons why he was not being successful. And this group was very supportive. They listened compassionately every week until they finally began to get weary of hearing this story week after week after week. And it was then that the leader of the group started paying attention to the words that this man typically used when describing his woes. And from that, the leader wondered if maybe he had a belief that there was no way that things were ever going to work out for him. And so he asked the man, "Is this what goes on in your mind? There's no way?" And the man thought about it and he agreed. Yes, that was the belief underlying all of his experiences. There's no way this is going to work. And so this man decided to switch his thought to, there is a way. Every time those words showed up in his thinking, whenever he caught himself thinking, there's no way, automatically he shifted to, there is a way, with an emphasis on is. There is a way. And just that little shift was enough to actually give him a feeling of hope and this feeling of success. And he suddenly got it, that there was a real possibility that his life could indeed work out. He hadn't seen it before then. And so the lightness that came from that, the shift in perspective from there's no way to there is a way, was exactly what he needed in order to see his world in a different light. And through that light, he began to realize some things. The first was that the way he'd been sending out his resumes, faxing them, this story's been around for a while, was not working. And so he switched to emailing them, and he got 2 responses immediately. He found a brace that eliminated his back pain. Within 2 weeks of just making that shift from there's no way to there is a way, he emailed the group and said, "Sorry, I can't join you today. I have to go to work." So visualization is an important step in creating that life that we want, but our beliefs are very powerful. And if they're at odds with what we're trying to create, those need to be addressed first. So pay attention. Pay attention to what triggers you. Notice the things that push your buttons, because those moments are gold for us to help pinpoint what limiting beliefs we may be holding on to. In my case, I started noticing whenever I felt that overwhelm and the powerlessness and the deep sadness seemed to be directly connected to times I've turned on the news or gone on social media, the Twitter sphere. Talk about having my buttons pushed. And I got how the belief for me was this: nothing I do is going to change any of this. Nothing I do matters. So I might as well just give up. So you see this: you don't matter, give up. That was the message I was giving to myself, and I saw what a roadblock that was for me to help bring forth any change. What a disempowering belief to walk around thinking nothing I do matters, nothing I do is going to make any difference. But here's an important, and I believe, pivotal thing about that. In fact, it was for me, at least. A belief is simply deeming as true the thought that I'm currently thinking. It's nothing more than that. If I believe the thought, nothing I do makes any difference, then my reaction will be one of powerlessness. And so the trick is to discover that belief and then question. Question the thought. Question whether that thought is true or not. And I thought of Byron Katie and her amazing work. And she would ask, is that true? Nothing you do makes any difference? Can you be absolutely sure that's true? And of course, the answer to that has to be no. And she would sometimes follow up by also saying, give me an example of how the opposite is true. This is a great question to ask yourself. Give an example of a time when you made a difference, you see. And think of when something you did mattered. And so I started going down that road. Instead of it's hopeless, nothing I do matters, so I may as well quit, I switched to you matter. Don't give up. You matter. And all it took was this shift in perspective. And that shift comes from realizing that the thought, nothing I do matters, is just one of an infinite number of possibilities that exists in potential. And when I settle on that one possibility as if it's the only one, static thinking, when I believe that it alone is true, then I'm negating all of the others. So the opposite of nothing I do makes a difference is everything I do makes a difference. Everything I do makes a difference. And that thought exists right now in potential just as much as the original one did. Which one am I choosing to believe? Because that will determine what my experience in life will be. For the man in our story, there is no way existed right along with there is a way. And as he made a different choice, believing that there was a way, it made all the difference. A way opened. And if I believe that nothing I do matters, then that's reflected in my behavior. Why bother? Why bother doing anything? It won't matter. And now, when I get to that, this belief has elevated to the status of lie, because it has sliced out a small piece of the pie of infinite possibility and said that's the only one that exists, and that's static thinking. And my actions will be uninspired and will reflect the belief that I don't matter. And in that way, it will confirm that belief for me. But the opposite is also true. If I just start living my life as if what I'm doing matters right now, that will change the way that I show up. Do you see it? Start acting as if your actions matter and see what happens. Now, on a cultural level, if enough of us believe the thought that nothing we do matters, it becomes what Sharif Abdullah calls the consensual lie, that tells us that our culture cannot change, that we have no power. And typically we have trouble recognizing and overcoming this agreed upon delusion, as individuals, because it's held together by the group consensus, the herd mentality. And if the consensus is that nothing any of us does matters in any way, then that powerlessness will be reflected back to us. As long as I buy in to the consensual lie, nothing will change. That belief will continue to be confirmed for me. That's how powerful we are as spiritual beings struggling along trying to be human. So, the work becomes awakening from the belief, stepping out of it and seeing that the truth is significant cultural change has happened many times in the past. If you remember our exploration of cultural change that we've done through the lens of spiral dynamics, we see that we have moved from tribal living to medieval times, to monarchies, to the Industrial Revolution, to the crazy 60s, to the global community, to whatever's emerging right now. Change and transformation has happened all throughout history, and that should give us pause and hope that it can happen now, along with the realization that we are the ones to midwife its emergence into reality. That is process thinking. What we do matters. And so what is your vision for your life and for the world? As inlets and outlets of divine mind, each one of us has the ability to engage our inner vision in order to transform our personal life, as well as to help bring about this collective cultural shift that will benefit humanity. We have the ability, in fact, we have the right to do so. We have the responsibility to do so, being who we've come here to be. Now, we don't have to make this vision happen. We just have to play our part. We collaborate with it. Collaborating with a vision. And a wonderful tool that we can use to participate in that collaboration is called imaginary hindsight. Yes, I finally got there. This is the name of an exercise that one of my personal heroines, the eco-philosopher Joanna Macy uses in her workshops, which consists of first imagining a hoped-for future, a compelling vision that moves you, and then traveling forward in time in our minds to that future moment in order to look back and watch how it unfolded. In a sense, it's kind of like our to-done list that we have shared in the past. And she has people get into groups and imagining that they're sitting around a campfire in the future and they're regaling each other with stories of how that hoped-for future came to pass. And when I read about that, it just really appealed to me as a storyteller. It just brought forth this desire to try it. And so I put myself 20 years in the future, and I imagined sitting around a campfire with my great-grandchildren, telling them how the paradigm shift happened. And I wrote an entire description of the shift and what I learned and how I changed and transformed and how it was for me. It was fun, inspiring. It brought forth an excited hopefulness within me. Now, the real value of this exercise was to let me view what's happening right now from a much different perspective, one in which the current challenges are not against me, but are for me. It was very empowering, it was enlivening, it was revealing, and I felt inspired as I imagined my actions and saw them clearly making a difference. And we can do this with our own personal visions for ourselves. So find a compelling vision, identify what it is, and then see what beliefs come up as you're imagining that. See what kind of beliefs, limiting beliefs, may have been taking up all of your mental space when it comes to being able to move forward on actualizing your vision. And then imagine a future when the vision has come to pass, and feel the way you're going to feel then. From that perspective, look back and see how it happened. What did you learn? How did you change? What ahas and insights did you gain? What evidence can you find in your story that there was a greater force at work to manifest this vision? Make it fun. How would you tell the story of how your life changed to a child years from now? Use your innate creative power to make it so real that your belief system gets stretched. And let the journey from visualization to manifestation unfold in your mind and reveal the gifts that it holds for you. Using imaginary hindsight, which is 2020, by the way. And in this sense, when we do that, we can carry our desired future within us and allow it to guide us into taking action that demonstrates its emergence. This really works. This visionary time traveling can become the guiding force leading to the manifestation of a world that works for all. I just know that's true. What we can conceive and believe, we can achieve. We can do this. The good news is that each of us arrives on this planet with our potential already installed. We don't have to improve it. We don't have to fix it. We don't have to get more of it. We just have to use it. And so, to do that, begin by finding a compelling vision that moves you, that brings forth feelings of excitement. Then identify any thoughts that you're believing that may be limiting your success and keeping you in static thinking. Watch for those times your buttons are pushed. Then replace those thoughts with ones that are life-affirming, that excite you, that lift your heart, and that propel you into process thinking. Remember that those new thoughts exist right now in potential. Then travel in your mind to a future time when that vision comes into fruition and feel the way you're going to feel when it does. Feel it deeply. Sustain the feeling. I find gratitude always to be a wonderful choice for that feeling. And from that place, look back. From that perspective, ask your heart to reveal to you how it happened. Imagine telling the story of your transformation to your descendants. And then start to act as if. Act as if it were true. If I believe that everything I do matters, then what I'm doing right now, I am doing with that sense of it mattering. And it shifts the whole thing, you see. So start to act as if and watch your dream unfold. Let your divine essence become action in your world. Remember, it already exists in potential. And when you use your creative powers, you are actualizing their potential. What we can conceive and believe, we can achieve. Do not underestimate the creative power that we all have within us. If Newton can invent calculus during the bubonic plague, that tells me that formerly inconceivable things can manifest during this time. So please join me in envisioning and committing to creating a world that works for all, regardless of race, color, ethnicity, sexual orientation, financial status, age, all of it. Everything already exists in potential. That world exists right now in potential. And if there's anyone on this planet that you would be unwilling to change places with, we have a ways to go. But in reality, that future already is. And we are here to actualize its emergence. And guess what? It is closer than we know. As Arundhati Roy tells us, some days I can hear her breathing. That's it? I'm done.
All right, way to go. That was an awesome talk.
Thank you.
Give me my remote back. So it's
Heart to heart.
heart to heart. So, there's so much in your talk that just really got me thinking in my own experience how how limiting beliefs for me kind of just kept me in lack. And I mean, I can remember, several years ago, just talking from the pulpit and working with my own sense of not enough, and how just simply shifting that belief. And so I experienced that shift, and all of a sudden my coaching practice just emerged. And it wasn't because I did something different out there. It was because I arrived at a place within myself where I really knew what I was worth.
Yeah.
And my worthiness.
And another thing that's part of is that we actually just shift our allegiance.
That's right.
And I love that. We shift our allegiance from the belief that I don't matter, that nothing I do makes any difference anyway, and we just move that to a new thought. And so it's not a matter of like chipping away, trying to get something that's dug in deep and you can't get it out. It's just moving, aligning with an equally, I want to say true, but it's aligning with the thought that exists right now, and it's just moving our allegiance to something else that we can see and feel and bring into pass.
We could probably say on general terms, whenever we feel diminished or in any kind of discomfort, we are in that kind of incongruence between who we truly are and what purpose is seeking to express itself and what is holding us back. And so that discomfort is really about that internal incongruence or incoherence. And that's what we have to really work with, because once you align, my thought is for a life that's filled with with all the things that I need of. For me to kind of welcome that into my life, I have to shift my belief about myself. But it's not just in the moment I'm thinking that. The other 95% of my life has to be in alignment with that intention, because we can be, compartmentalized. Like, here's my spiritual practice, and I can do all the things that you just talked about, and then I can go out here on my social media or watch TV and just lose it. And so there's some aspect of this work where we have to really own the totality of it. We cannot let ourselves get away with believing that there's something out there that can diminish us. We just can't allow that to continue.
Yeah, and if we ask ourselves the question, what action, since my actions matter, what action does my heart tell me to take right now?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, cheers.
All right, way to go. All right, well, it's time now to welcome and receive all of our love offerings and donations that we appreciate. And so let's affirm together our offertory blessing. So for those of you at home, on our Unity website is the little green donate button, or afterwards you can go ahead and help us out that way. So let's do this together. I know that my giving blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, and all that I give and receive. I give thanks for the abundance that is mine to share. And so it is. All right, just as a reminder, we'll have our Zoom meet and greet immediately following our live stream today, and we're going to now welcome Brian Wright, who's going to be playing a musical for us, and we'll see you on the other side of his tune. Thank you.